even later on in life, I always rented. So if I ever had an issue with anything, I would just like radio the maintenance guy. And at some point, maybe eventually they would come and hopefully it would be for the problem that I asked for. There was one time I got a knock on the door from a maintenance guy and they're like, all right, I heard your pipes are blown. And I go, not even close. It was the one time I didn't have an issue, right? Like sometimes I'd wait like 3 weeks for a light bulb and they'd never come. But this time, this guy was like, I'm here to fix everything. And I go, nothing's wrong. He goes, are you sure? I go, I've been here, so I must be sure. And he goes, well, is this XY apartment? I go, not even close. Let me get this straight. You work here and you don't even know where you're going. So someone has got blown pipes and they're waiting for you, probably for the last 3 weeks, and you're showing up to the wrong apartment number. Fantastic. Now I live in a place that I own, and when things break, well, one, the first thing that broke a few days after I moved in was like a fan. Yeah, it's still broken because I don't know how useful it was. Apparently, I got told how useful it was. It's still broken though. Sometimes I turn it on. You ever just wait, like just let it cool off and see if it works again? I've been letting it cool off for the past, you know, year. So that thing should start working at any time. But I noticed the water wasn't heated up one day. And I go, well, that's interesting. This has always worked. I've never not had hot water, which good for me, but when you don't have some, when you have something all the time and then you don't have it suddenly, you go, hey, wait, what is this? And I asked the other person that lived here, my girlfriend, and with a straight, I go, hey, you got any, have you noticed no hot water? With a straight face, I was skipping a beat. She goes, yeah, I took a cold shower yesterday. Yesterday? But that, when you live with somebody, sometimes there's information you do need to pass along, right? Like if the power was out and, you didn't tell anybody and you just watch that person walk around the house just flipping on light switches, even light switches that you don't even know if it's a light or not. You're just thinking like, hey, this ought to work. I had another maintenance guy. I apologize, maintenance guys. But they do help and they do fix the problems because if not, I would have still all of these issues or would have had all of these issues. So, they do help. But they came to me one time and they go, hey, look, I got good news and bad news. I go, give it to me, the good news, because I like to start on a positive and then work my way downhill. And they go, the good news is the power's out. That's why nothing's working. And so there's no issues. It's just the power's out everywhere, which is an issue, but not, you're fine once the power gets back on. Okay, what's the bad news? Well, the bad news is somebody was smoking crack downstairs, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, oh, what? And it turns out, and you go, hey, well, wait a minute, it's 2023, maybe it's something else. He looked and he goes, I know what that is, and that was definitely what I said. And I go, well, all right then, time to move. So renting could be a tricky business. You never know who you're going to get in the surrounding area. I guess that's true with anything. But so my water heater was kaput. Well, I didn't really know. You walk over and it's not making any noise, which I don't know if it made any noise in the first place. But it turns out there's instructions on the water heater. It also says water heater. And then, so I'm looking in there and I can't see very well. So I got my flashlight phone. I'm doing the old like, because you gotta look like you've got something going on. I grabbed my toolbox, which was a Tiffany set toolbox. It's like a designer toolbox. It's not mine, it's hers. But it has come in handy on multiple times. One time somebody who came over to hang a TV, they were not happy with my toolbox and they went out and bought me tools, but they weren't buying me a box, right? They weren't going to they're like, I'm not teaching you everything over here. So they just put it in a bag. I'm not using tools in a bag. I don't even know what some of those tools are. So I use My toolbox. So I had my toolbox, I was sitting at the water heater, and it turns out the pilot light had turned off. Now, I had come up with an answer to why it had been kaputs. There was a sock on top of the whole, well, not the whole contraption, that would be a giant sock, but over the thing that controlled everything. See, I don't know what I'm talking about. And so I tried to explain that to her because I didn't put the sock there. You gotta blame somebody. And you shouldn't, right? It's not the time to be pointing fingers. There's no hot water. I was heating water on the stove to do the dishes because I wanted a gold star, right? I got chores to do and I want that gold star. And then I just try to imagine like taking a shower and like just having to get like rounds of hot water from the stove. It wasn't gonna work. So I realized no pilot light, but there was instructions on how to restart the pilot light. And I'm glad nobody was there to watch us try not once, not twice, but 3 times. And it still did not work. And they were simple instructions. I mean, I might as well have been standing at a gas station reading flammable. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was not that difficult. And so finally, we had to figure out who to call. And luckily, there's so much information on these things. I mean, it's printed right there. I mean, I had no issues. I just needed to know how to read. Uh, should have gone to that library more often. Luckily, someone was with me. So I made the call to the water heater people, wherever those people are. And I said, please, the water heater does not work. And of course, they start asking generic questions, which I have no idea. Like, is it on? And I go, I don't think so. Right? Like, according to the instructions I read, I don't know. Um, I tried, you ever tried looking up a video on it and then you're even more confused because what you're looking at doesn't match what you have? Happens more times than not. And so they're like, all right, we'll send somebody out. So they send somebody out. And I'm telling you, they walk in and they must have just like kicked it on. I mean, they didn't even do like it was on in 2 seconds. I mean, thank them for sure. And I was telling somebody this, and they go, "Oh, so you clearly told them or you watched what they did, right? So you can figure it out for next time." Well, no, there was two of them, and one looked like he was on the job training, and I was talking with him, trying to explain the whole sock situation. I wanted to make sure it wasn't on me, you know? And then they fixed it so fast. I was like, hey, well, there was a hole in it that I patched up. Like, I had to come up with like, I don't know, they just like spit on it. Like, I was so confused how quickly they just turned it on. I was like, did you follow the instructions? Like, because one guy walked in, the other guy was like, yeah, these water heaters. And I go, what? So we got the water back up and running, but I'm super confused, So, but we now have it on a lower setting, so it doesn't heat up all the way, and now we're just terrified. Like every time we turn on, like only one thing is allowed to use water. Because if too many things uses water, and I go in and I check the light and the instructions, just to all make sure, and to make sure there's no socks. You really can't over expect. The more you try and say it or cause the blame, the more I'm gonna wind up with a hole. So with that, I'm gonna go get myself probably more in hot water. So with that, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Until next time, bye bye.